conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines. Most are still asleep and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine, but the carnal mind is foolish. Obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out. Stop it, I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second nature to me, just to me it's out honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, healthy how? Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody on this beautiful world. I'm your host, Joseph Daniel Pena. This is the 509 Divine Pines podcast. We are a few days away from Christmas. Bless up, man. I hope you guys are doing amazing and really enjoying the holidays. Because next year, hey, it's a new year, man. Back to work. Am I right? Hard work. Stay on that grind. Hey, I got a lot of resolutions. Literally, my weed came out good. Came out like at about like a 7. Hey, and this is my 3rd year doing it. I'm not a pro, but literally from people around me giving me grades, they're like, hey, this is pretty good, man. Like for you barely being new at this, you like this is pretty good. So I turned it into some rosin yesterday, made some bubble hash, fire. That's some good stuff. It didn't come out to as much as I wanted to because, this is still my 3rd year and I'm still running through the processes and trying to understand better grades of cannabis for different types of oil. I'm looking to turn this into a lifelong process, and the way that cannabis is going, it's going to be a worldwide legal thing here pretty soon. If you understand the dynamics and the economics, it's going to probably hit the $1 trillion market here within the next 10 years on a global scale. I mean, literally more than $1 trillion. It's already at like 50 billion or 200 billion for the world. So yeah, you know where it's going. Now this oil, man, it's nice. It's great. Even when I'm learning things from the recent Greg Carlwood podcast about PB Randolph and his mysticism with an angelic contact, and I reference it over to the Vedic text and their guardian angel talk with it in their ancient books and the Israelite text, man. I think that my love for cannabis goes back a long time. I mean, like on this earth, we've been smoking it for thousands of years, and literally, man, my life has gone up and way better. My body has been way better. My sports way better. Everything, man. It's just took me on to another healthier level. Literally, before I was smoking cannabis, I was living a pretty bad life. I was kind of just like not really horrible life. Okay, sorry, but I was drinking, just eating bullshit. Just not caring, dude. And then I started smoking weed, and it was thank God that one of my good friends who actually was a peaceful dude. He was like kind of like a positive person at all times. We played basketball together, and he put me on, and it changed my life. He wasn't a destructive person, so when he got me high for the first time, he was actually very uplifting. He was promoting some good things, and so from the moment, from the first day ever, like I was introduced to cannabis on a positive scale, and then lo and behold, 2022, you get a lot of more information with the help of the web that, hey, cannabis is one of the biggest tools to humanity for thousands of years. Hey, guys, You know what? Enough about cannabis. Let's get straight into it. Twitter Files Part 7. Look, man, this thing is blowing up. It's all over the news now. Their FBI is like trying to just say that these Twitter files are bullshit. But if you go to Twitter, the Twitter files aren't bullshit. So, what's to give? I'm just going to go ahead and read them for y'all, and you guys can decide for yourself. So, Part 7 came out December 19th, which was 2 days ago. And this is about the FBI and the Hunter Biden laptop. How the FBI and intelligence community discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, both after and before the New York Post revealed the contents of his laptop on October 14th, 2020. We present evidence pointing to an organized effort by representatives of the intelligence community aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. The story begins in December 2019 when the Delaware computer store owner named John Paul Mac Isaac contacts the FBI about a laptop that Hunter Biden had left with him on December 9, 2019. The FBI issues a subpoena for and takes the Hunter Biden's laptop. Uh, I think if I start showing these images, I'm more than likely gonna get flagged. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read them. All my viewers, you guys can see these posts. I'm not just like making this out about thin air. All right, continuing forward. By August 2020, Mac Isaac still had not heard back from the FBI, even though he had discovered evidence of criminal activity. And so he emails Rudy Giuliani, who was under the FBI surveillance at the time. In early October, Giuliani gives it to the New York Post. My bad. It's Giuliani. Holy, I butchered that. Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani. Shortly after 7 p.m. on October 13th, Hunter Biden's lawyer, George Misiris, emails JP Mac Isaac. Hunter and Misiris had just learned from the New York Post that its story about the laptop would be published the next day. So here's the email. Oof, big deal. Hey, you know what? I think Elon's pissed because you know, Amber Heard and Grimes over there messing with his kids. So he's like, hey, you know what? Enough of this enough. You know what I mean? Hey, if anybody's messing with my kid, it's the end of the world for them. But I don't got kids yet. Number 7, moving on. At 9:22 p.m. Eastern, FBI Special Agent Elvis Chan sends 10 documents to Twitter's then head of site integrity, Yoel Roth, through Teleporter, a one-way communications channel from the FBI to Twitter. All right. The next day, October 14th, 2020, the New York Post runs its explosive story revealing the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Every single fact in it was accurate. Sheesh. Man, it gets disturbing. I didn't look at the leaked pictures. I did not even open those documents. Nope. I heard about them and it was enough. It is sick. Uh yeah, I'm not saying anything more. All right, number 9, and yet within hours, Twitter and other social media companies censored the New York Post article, preventing it from spreading and, more importantly, undermining its credibility in the minds of many Americans. Why is that? What exactly happened? A lot of shit. Number 10, on December 20th, Matt Taibbi described the debate inside Twitter over its decision to censor a wholly or accurate article. Since then, we have discovered info that points to an organized effort by the intel community to influence Twitter and other platforms. Number 11. First, it's important to understand that Hunter Biden earned tens of millions of dollars in contracts with foreign businesses, including ones linked to China government, for which Hunter offered no real work, probably sex work or gun work, adrenochrome work, something. Shit. Number 12. And yet, during all 2020, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed Yoel Roth to dismiss reports of Hunter Biden's laptop as a Russian hack and leak operation. This is from a sworn declaration by Roth given in December 2020. So we see the pictures right here. And Yoel Roth goes and you know, yep, yeah, that dude's sick too. You know what? Continuing forward. Remember this clip by Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan? I will go ahead and play this because this is an important one. Uh, so, number 13, they did the same to Facebook, according to CEO Mark Zuckerberg. The FBI basically came to us and was like, hey, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. There's about to be some kind of dump similar to that. So let's go here and Mark Zuckerberg talking about this.
The background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, "Hey, um, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. The background."
So there we go. Number 14, were the FBI warnings of a Russian hack and leak operation related to the Hunter Biden based on any new intel? No, they weren't. Through our investigations, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what had happened in 2016, admitted FBI agent Elvis Chan in November. Number 15, indeed, Twitter executives repeatedly reported very little Russian activity. Example, on September 24th, 2020, Twitter told FBI it had removed 345 largely inactive accounts linked to previous coordinated Russian hacking attempts. They had little reach and low follower accounts. In fact, Twitter debunked false claims by journalists of foreign influence on its platform. We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim. Our review thus far shows a small scale domestic troll effort. So I've been on Twitter for 10 years, right? I did notice that Twitter was like a little bit of a lone wolf in the last like 4 years. Like I noticed that even though it censored people and it had a problem against politicians and it was just a mess. Like I did notice though that it was trying to like stand on its own 2 feet. There was like some independence to it. So it was like, definitely a lone wolf. I did notice this. So a lot of this correlates with what I've seen over the last few years with this company. Number 17, after FBI asks about a WAPO story on alleged foreign influence in a pro Trump tweet, Twitter Ross says the article makes a lot of insinuations, but we saw no evidence that that was the case here. And in fact, a lot of strong evidence pointing in the other direction. Number 18, it's not the first time that Twitter's Roth has pushed back against the FBI. In January 2020, Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside of the normal search warrant process. Interesting. I wonder why. Number 19, pressure had been growing. We have seen a sustained, if uncoordinated, effort by the intelligence community to push us to share more info and change our API policies. They are probing and pushing everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. Here's an email highlighting the same thing. Number 20, time and again, FBI asked Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting. We haven't yet identified activity that we typically refer to or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context. 21. Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requests information from Twitter that Twitter has already made clear it will not share outside of normal legal channels. 22. Then in July 2020, the FBI's Elvis Chan arranges for temporary top secret security clearances for Twitter executives so that FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming election. On August 11th, 2020, the FBI's Chan shares information with Twitter Roth relating to Russian hacking organization APT28 through the FBI's secure one-way communications channel, Teleporter. Recently, Yoel Roth told Swisher that he had been primed to think about the Russian hacking group APT28 before news of the Hunter Biden laptop came out. When it did, Ross said, it set off every single one of my finely tuned APT-28 hacking and leaping campaign alarm bells. Number 25. In August 2020, FBI's Chan asked Twitter, does anyone there have top secret clearance? When someone mentions Jim Baker, Chan responds, I don't know how I forgot him. An odd claim, given Chan's job is to monitor Twitter, not to mention that they work together at the FBI. Number 26. Who is Jim Baker? He's former general counsel of the FBI through 2014 and 2018 and one of the most powerful men in the U.S. intelligence community. Baker has moved in and out of the government for 30 years, serving stints at CNN, Bridgewater, and Brookings. Bridgewater was a $140 billion asset management firm. Pretty large. Number 27. As general counsel of the FBI, Number 27, as general counsel of the FBI, Baker played a central role in making the case internally for an investigation of Donald Trump. Number 28, Baker wasn't the only senior FBI executive involved in the Trump investigation to go to Twitter. Don Burton, the former deputy chief of staff to FBI head James Comey, who initiated the investigation of Trump, joined Twitter in 2019 as director of strategy. 29, as of 2020, there were so many former FBI employees who alumni working at Twitter that they had created their own private Slack channel and a crib sheet to onboard new FBI arrivals. Number 30, efforts continued to influence Twitter Yoel Roth. In September 2020, Roth participated in an Aspen Institute tabletop exercise on potential hack and dump operation related to Hunter Biden. The goal was to shape how the media covered it and how social media carried it. Wow. So they interesting, guys. All right. So we know of Agenda 21 and the other simulations, Event 21, or Event 201. So these simulations that these large government and private entity organizations have to simulate potential scenarios and then somehow miraculously those scenarios happen. Well, they also do that for these type of things, social media. So remember how people are talking about like everything is a stage? Everything we see on the news is a stage. It's paid, it's acted, there's actors. Um, okay, the Yoel Roth is one of those actors you can see. This is definitely, a higher level up management thing where people are coordinating it from like a billionaire level, a trillionaire level sometimes because some of these organizations are at the trillionaire level. Yeah, so that's how they can predict and manage things from months ahead, maybe even years ahead. They have the money, but they also did the simulations. So when you have both, you can coordinate things exactly how you want. Interesting. So number 31, the organizer was Vivian Schiller, the former CEO of NPR, former head of news at Twitter, former general manager of New York Times, former chief digital officer of NBC News. Attendees included Meta's and Facebook's head of security policy and top national security reporters for New York Times, WAPO, and others. Interesting. So these guys, it's all like the big wigs, it's all like the top of the management everywhere. These guys are all definitely just cahooting and conspiring to rule our lives. All right, we're going to continue on to number 8, part 8, Twitter files, part 8. How Twitter quietly aided the Pentagon's covert online PSYOP campaign. Dun, dun, dun. So, not only did they create this little simulation and cahoots with the government, they also did a PSYOP little portion. So, I mean, that was obviously stated in the last part 7, you know, tongue in cheek, but this is definitely the call out of it. So, number 1, despite promises to shut down covert state-run propaganda network, Twitter documents show that the social media giant directly assisted the US military's influence operations. Twitter had claimed for years that they make coherent efforts to detect and thwart government-backed platform manipulation. Here's a Twitter testifying to Congress about its pledge to rapidly identify and shut down all state-backed covert information operations and deceptive propaganda. So there's an article right here. Yeah, like I said, Twitter was always fighting the power, but they're also in their own fucking ass. They had their head up their ass for a long time too. Number 3, behind the scenes, Twitter gave approval and special protection to the US military's online psychological influence ops. Despite knowledge that Pentagon propaganda accounts use covert identities, Twitter did not suspend many for around 2 years or more. Some remain active. In 2017, a US Central Command official sent Twitter a list of 52 Arab language accounts we use to amplify certain messages. The official asked for priority service for 6 accounts, verification for 1, and whitelist abilities for the others. The same day CENTCOM sent the list, Twitter officials used a tool to grant a special whitelist tag that essentially provides verification status to accounts who, without the blue check mark, meaning they are exempt from spam, abuse flags, more visible, likely to trend on hashtags. The CENTCOM accounts on the list tweeted frequently about the U.S. military priorities in the Middle East, including promoting anti-Iran messages, promotion of Saudi Arabia US backed war in Yemen, and accurate US drone strikes that claim to only hit terrorists. Wow. So that's pretty big. I mean, the whitelisting, cool. Like, I mean, not for those accounts specifically, but cool that now it's out in the open that this really exists. There's a whitelist, there's a blacklist. Okay, next. So this organization that had cahoots with Twitter was creating a multitude of accounts, 30, around 26, I don't know, 30, something like that, right? Whatever. Um, let's just say 30 notably, because there was hundreds doing all sorts of different shit. But these specifically were like making warmongering type messages and posts and pictures. Interesting. And so Twitter allowed it, the government allowed it. Interesting. And to say that everybody from these other countries really do hate us, no, it's probably the government, obviously, right here. No wonder the news is attacking it. They don't want this information to come out. This is bewildering. Yes, I use those type of words in my daily life. Hey guys, let me go ahead and keep this ticker scrolling for y'all. Use my coupon codes down at the bottom. Honestly, go ahead and check out all of my sites and my coupons, man. You'll love them. Thank me later. Number 7, continuing on with the Twitter files. CENTCOM then shifted strategies and deleted disclosures of ties to the Twitter accounts. The bios of the accounts changed to seemingly organic profiles. One bio read Euphrates Pulse, another used an apparent deep fake profile pic and claimed to be a source of Iraqi opinion. One Twitter official who spoke to me said he feels deceived by the covert shift. Still, many emails from throughout 2020 show that high-level Twitter executives were well aware of DoD's vast network of fake accounts and covert propaganda and did not suspend the accounts. Number 9, for example, Twitter lawyer Jim Baker mused in a July 2020 email about an upcoming DoD meeting that the Pentagon used poor tradecraft in setting up its network and were seeking strategies for not exposing the accounts that are linked to each other or to DoD or the USG. Number 10, Stacy Cardile, another Twitter attorney, replied that the Pentagon wanted a SCIF and may want to retroactively classify its social media activities to obfuscate their activity in this space and that they may represent an overclassification to avoid embarrassment. Interesting. So these dudes were going at war with words, and there's all these little groups too going back and forth doing different things. Besides the war, they're also messing with the common citizens. Interesting. This is just crazy, but it's good to know because it gives you a clue on how these dudes play their games. Number 11, in several other 2020 emails, high level Twitter executives, lawyers discussed the covert network and even recirculated the 2017 list from CENTCOM and shared another list of 157 Pentagon accounts, again, mostly focused on Middle East military issues. In May 2020, email Twitter's Lisa Roman emailed the DoD with two lists. One list was accounts previously provided to us, and another list Twitter detected. The accounts tweeted in Russian and Arabic on U.S. military issues in Syria and ISIS, and also did not disclose Pentagon ties. Many of their secretive U.S. military propaganda accounts, despite detection by Twitter as late of 2020, continue tweeting through this year. Some not suspended until May 2022 or later until, according to records I reviewed. In August 2022, the Stanford Internet Observatory report exposed a U.S. military covert propaganda network on Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and other apps using fake news portals and deepfake images and memes against U.S. foreign adversaries. The U.S. propaganda network relentlessly pushed narratives against Russia, China, and other foreign countries. They accused Iran of threatening Iraq's water security and flooding the country with crystal meth and of harvesting the organ of Afghan refugees. The Stanford report did not identify all the accounts in the network, but one they did name was the exact same Twitter account CENTCOM asked for whitelist privileges in the 2017 email. I verified via Twitter's internet tools. The account used an AI created deepfake image. In subsequent reporting, Twitter was cast as an unbiased hero for removing a network of fake user accounts promoting pro Western policy positions. Media covering the story described Twitter as evenly applying its policies and proactive in suspending the DoD network. The reality is much more murky. Twitter actively assisted CENTCOM's network going back to 2017 as of late 2020 knew these accounts were covert, designed to deceive, to manipulate the discourse, a violation of Twitter's policies and promises. They waited years to suspend. Twitter's comms team was closely in touch with reporters working to minimize Twitter's role. When the Washington Post reported on the scandal, Twitter officials congratulated each other because the story didn't mention any Twitter employees and focused largely on the Pentagon. The conduct with the U.S. military's covert network stands in stark contrast with how Twitter has boasted about rapidly identifying and taking down covert accounts tied to state-backed influence operations, including Thailand, Russia, Venezuela, and others since 2016. Here is my reported piece with more detail. I was given access to Twitter for a few more days. I signed and agreed to nothing. Twitter had no input into anything I did or wrote. The searches were carried out by Twitter attorneys, so what I saw could be limited. Interesting. So that is the end of 28. So here's a little addition. Julian Assange revealed the U.S. State Department emailed Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey to assist in the aborted 2019 or 2009 uprising in Iran. This was revealed 9 years ago. And yeah, that was in WikiLeaks. Interesting, guys. Now, I'm going to talk about it right after the break.
Not new, what I do. I've been at it for a minute, pursuing doing the damage. New, I would do everything that I said I would do. I gotta have it, so goddamn it, I'ma be everything I plan to be. Glad to see money coming my way, believe I'll achieve anything I put my mind to, or at least I try to. I'm avoiding my doom, manifesting my room. Meditate to ease the flow. Third eye open, see the golden energy. It can enter me, get me to feeling full. Forget my enemies, dead to me, yeah, I proceed to go to a new dimension. Gotta mention it's inside a soul. Go inside, fuck the outside. Never tell lies, show pride for belief. Gotta keep the range wide, so instead I just write another hit. Getting fried, rolling up, smoke another blunt for the good times. Good times, bad times makes for the good rhyme. So it never matters, I just learned, no I can't hide. Thank God for every second was birthed with the mind of an ancient soul who's just waiting for the next sign. I'm always watching, vision like a hawk, have 'em flocking. When I drop it, I'm talking, have 'em knocking. Acknowledge that I'm dropping, I'm coming out the noggin, I'm logged in. That's the intuition, nothing wrong with doing what you feel is right. Everybody got this. Usually feel it in the night when I'm dropping knowledge. Never even needed any college, abolish. People telling people what they want, I do not wish control over anybody, do it for the profit. That's the reason that they push it, do it from the cockpit. Cause they got the money, want the money on the mob shit. On the mob shit. But I know they ain't gon' make it, shit is poppin'. At the end of time, new age topics. Revolutionary crusade cross, here we go to a new space. Yeah, we enter in a new place. Louis V on my shoelace, rolling with the blue face. Yeah, I'm wondering what you chase. Just another dude caught up in the rat race. Moving my pace, lot of people looking at me sideways. I chase future preparations, gotta go through my face till I feel ready to rearrange it. Happen on a daily basis, tripping oasis. When so many people that I can see through their faces and touch, so I'm reading minds, feel like I'm evasive, persuasive. Cause I feel the vibe, manipulation, I'm patient. Yeah, I feel the vibe, then work to change it. Manifestation, blessings is what I'm chasing. Quantum physics, I'm about to take the time and rearrange it. I play with reality, can't feel like I'm basic. Most people shut it down, don't wanna embrace it. Replacing knowledge.
Hello, we are back. All right. So, what I wanted to speak about was Zelda. For video games and think, oh, video games, but no. A lot of times their origins are very mystical. Now, we're gonna go ahead and talk about it. You see, the original Zeldas over there in Asia had Christian references. You see this artwork right here? This is official art from The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. And everyone sees it on my screen over there on the left side. There's a cross. Link is praying to it. Now there's another picture right here. So Link walking with a shield, and the shield has a cross on it, a Christian cross. Then we see these castles in the background, these temples, very famous to what Tartarian or even like castles would be from those way old days. Now we also see this sanctuary, which would be reminiscent of a church in Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. It's even in the 64 video game Zelda, he's like entering a temple or a church. Now, we're gonna go ahead and read this article. This was the best article that I found on this. There were many others, but these guys go pretty in depth and just give us a good story. This is Geeks Under Grace, written by Kelly, and he starts off with a reference. I live in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else. C.S. Lewis was ahead of his time in many ways when he said that Christianity is the light in which he sees everything in the world. He revealed a perspective that Christians should adapt to their own lives. We need to see the world through the lens of our faith, finding God's fingerprints in all creative works. In modern times, however, this perspective can often be met with cynicism, and in gaming culture, Christian fans are largely scrutinized among their peers. Even so, as Christians, it is imperative that we use our ability to see God in everything, even our games, movies, and books. For example, I have found video games as an evangelistic tool that reaches people that I otherwise would not have anything else in common for. Through discernment, we can find a mutual ground with our fellow geeks and break down an icy wall while establishing a connection for introducing new perspectives to something as simple as a video game. Zelda fans have particularly impressed me. We can come up with theories based on a single dialogue or a tiny detailed scene of the game that are more detailed than whole novels. We debate in an unspoken history of Hyrule with a passion and formality that puts our Supreme Court to shame. Nintendo has taken notice and has frequently applauded fans for their attention to detail. The Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia put a lot of debates to rest, but started nearly 100 more. One thing that the games hold true through every release is their quiet but powerful nod to Christianity. Intentional or not, they're difficult to miss in the mind of a believer. The original Legend of Zelda made it clear that the religion of the game was intended to be Christianity, as we've seen in the first picture, this picture right here. This likely changed later for political reasons, and the element of golden goddesses was added to the Legend of Zelda lore. Now, with the availability of the World Wide Web, translations and snippets of art and lore lost in translation from Japanese to English are now accessible, and we can get a clear picture of the original intention for the games. Back in the day, instruction manuals not only included the controls, but a small introduction of the characters, and they also included a bit of backstory for those who wanted a little more dimension. Old games traditionally focus on gameplay rather than the story, lacking in-depth NPCs and detailed cutscenes that dove further into the lore of the story that they were trying to tell. In the original Zelda games, the Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, a booklet included in an image of Link taking a knee before a crucifix in prayer. This could largely be due to the fact that the dormant religion of the Middle Ages was Christianity, and the Legend of Zelda setting is inspired by the medieval time period. Regardless of reasoning behind the symbolism, it is established in Zelda canon that Link in the original church is empty and dark, so he is not acting as a figurehead or an icon of heroics. He is humbling himself in the privacy of the foot of Christ. While the art is obviously dated, it's a powerful image regardless. Indeed, Legend of Zelda is my favorite video game franchise, and Halo is my second. I'll be honest. Link, the main character of Legend of Zelda series, was originally depicted with a shield bearing the cross, tying into the game's medieval inspiration. Link's shield is likely a reflection of the shields borne into battle by the Knights Templars. There's a lot of controversy and confusion around the Templar, but generally they were men who took an oath to serve in God's name to the best of their ability, swearing to resist evil in all forms. While many will still see a Christian warrior as something of a contradiction, God often uses warriors to perform his greatest works. Among the highest praises found in the Bible was from Jesus to a Roman soldier, Matthew 8, verse 5. Link is a warrior with a just cause and a pure heart. Armed with a sword and a shield against a world plagued by evil, Link as a character reflects the original sentiments of the Knights Templar profoundly. While the design of the early Legend of Zeldas were perhaps a simple nod to the medieval period, their historical references make a very strong case for Christian influence as well. A new knighthood has appeared in the land of the Incarnation, a knighthood that fights a double battle against the adversaries of flesh and blood and also against the spirit of evil. This new knighthood is worthy of all the praise given to men of God. The knight who protects his soul with the armor of faith, covers his body with a coat of mail, is truly without fear and above reproach. Doubly armed, he fears neither men nor demons. Amen. That is said by Bernard of Clairvaux. The shields of the medieval times held deep personal meaning to the men behind them. The coat of arms that decorated the shield was more than a fanciful design, it spoke of the house that represented it. Likewise, the design of Link's original shield actually holds a deeper meaning than the classic design that nods back to the medieval past. The golden cross is set on a golden field in his official art. A golden field on a coat of arms represented understanding, respect, and generosity. The cross is only a symbol on Link's original shield, is the only symbol on Link's original shield. It's simplistic, especially when compared to the more modern Legend of Zelda designs. But in the early days of the franchise, little else needed to be said of Link's character. A cross on the shield represents faith and protection. While Link has remained a silent protagonist even to this day, his original shield speaks volumes of his intended character. Understanding, respect, virtue, generosity, faith, and perseverance are all that values that were frequently spoken of by Jesus himself. Link's shield is a powerful metaphor for the shield of faith in the armor of God. Direct Christians are not limited to Link's appearance and primary arms, but are also integrated into many in game items. And most poignant is the appearance of the Bible in the early games. This was sadly translated to the Book of Magic by American Nintendo, but even the North American releases included the cross on the cover of the book. The Bible in Legend of Zelda really does not show any spiritual connections as it simply changes the nature of the magic spells that Link uses. The second item is the cross. Unlike the Bible or the Book of Magic, the cross does have a tangible spiritual connection to its in game function. With its secret power, you'll be able to see enemies which you normally can't see. There is more to the world than we can see in the physical. We don't struggle against the flesh exclusively, but we also struggle against things unseen. All around us, forces unseen are waging a spiritual war with our very souls on the battlefield. For an unbeliever, the line between good and evil can seem blurry or non existent. Reality itself becomes two dimensional in a sense. Through the cross, or rather, what was done for us upon the cross. We were gifted with the Holy Spirit, which allows us to sense and perceive the things that are unseen around us. Right and wrong is written on our hearts, and the work of the enemy is as easily distinguished from the work of the Lord as night is from the day. The cross in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, gives Link the ability to see his enemies, specifically his enemies. There are two locations in the original Legend of Zelda games that are worth special mention. The first is the Sanctuary from A Link to the Past. The sanctuary was designed to resemble an old European cathedral, complete with stained glass windows on both sides of the church, several rows of pews facing the altar, and organ music playing in the background. The sanctuary is maintained and protected by an elderly sage who himself family. In the Japanese translation, The sage was actually a priest. Again, this was changed due to restrictions on religious material and games in North America. Historically, sanctuaries served a variety of purposes. Those with altars were places of worship as much as they were places for any to find protection, as it was believed that the Holy Spirit resided within the building, protecting those within. I believe so too, and I that is why I support Christianity and I to go to churches. Humanity was to recognize this sacred place and to stay their hand from whomever hid within the church so long as they remained on church grounds and confess their sins. I gotta sneeze on. Bless me. The sanctuary from A Link to the Past was not the first or only representation of a Christian house of worship either. In Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, there is a church in one of the towns, clearly marked as such by the large cross atop the structure. This building has very little plot significance, yet it is worth mentioning, especially as The Adventure of Link, A Link to the Past in the official Zelda timeline. The second location is significant because of how Link must gain access to it. The Desert Palace is only accessible via prayer. Link prays and then draws a cross upon his chest as the song from the sanctuary plays. Following this gesture, the desert palace opens up, allowing Link inside to face the darkness within. As Christianity was intended to be the main religion of the Zelda universe at the time of Link to the Past release, it's clear that prayer was not directed towards any random god such as Din or any of the entities later introduced, but to God the Almighty. The dominating symbol of the Legend of Zelda is the Triforce. Originally, this symbol belonged to a clan in ancient Japanese history. In this context, it was known as the Dragon Scale. The Triforce also bears a striking resemblance to the Trinity knot of the Celts. The Trinity knot was adapted by early Christians as a symbol representing the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Triforce itself can easily be viewed as a similar representation, especially given that the three triangles represent power, wisdom, and courage. God the Father is all powerful. The Son, Jesus Christ, grants us courage through our faith in Him, and the Holy Ghost grants us wisdom through its very presence. The three aspects of the Triforce are also the three most commonly granted fruits of the Spirit by God Himself to prominent figures in the Bible. Power, in the physical sense, was given to Samson from the Old Testament. Several times through the account of Samson, the Bible makes it clear that it is the Spirit of the Lord that allows him to accomplish feats such as tearing a lion in half using his bare hands. Judges uh, 14-6, um, chapter 14, verse 6, or defeating 30 men single-handedly, Judges chapter 14, verse 19. Power was also given to figures in the Bible, such as King Saul, in the form of authority to rule. However, power is easily the most corruptible and tempting of the spiritual gifts. Samson lost his power when he turned away from God. When he did regain his power, it was only through repentance, and the final feat of his physical strength ultimately led to his own demise. On the other hand, Saul grew corrupt in his power. When he started as an anointed ruler over God's chosen nation, he became a bloodthirsty tyrant. Similarly, Ganondorf and Ganon in the later games is the bearer of the Triforce of Power. He comes into a position of influence and authority already with dark intentions and thus uses his power for evil purposes. Time and time again, his power allows him to wreak havoc on the land, but time and time again, his power is ultimately a source of his downfall. Wisdom is a gift that God has granted to many, and virtues. The request for God's wisdom was highly praised by the Almighty himself. Solomon is a legendary historical figure regarded as an icon of wisdom and intellect. I see Solomon and Solomon's temple very much. And it was Sir Isaac Newton that tried to create Solomon's temple. And then in modern times, they're still trying to do Solomon's temple. So that Solomon's temple also hosted the Solomon's Book of Souls, which is interesting. So there were magic in how to control souls and spirits and ghosts and demons. So they were playing with magic over there in Solomon's temple. So that was wisdom. Just saying, you know, God himself spoke to Solomon, asking what he had else. After some thought, Solomon asked that he be given wisdom. God said to Solomon, "Since this is your heart's desire, and you have not asked for wealth, possessions, or honor, nor for the death of your enemies, and since you have not asked for a long life, but for wisdom and knowledge to govern my people over whom I have made you king, therefore wisdom and knowledge will be given to you, and I will also give you wealth, possessions, and honor, such as no king who was before you ever had, and none after you will have." Chronicles, uh, the Second Chronicles, chapter 1, verses 11 through 12. That was. Now, Joseph was given the wisdom and insight to interpret dreams, and as a result, he found favor with the nobility of Egypt. The Magi were blessed with the wisdom to read the heavens and recognize the signs. Their instinct eventually led them to meet the King of Kings himself. Those gifted with wisdom are directly tasked with guidance. Genesis 41. Wisdom is the Triforce that is passed down the line of Hyrule's princesses, the descendants of Hylia herself. Zelda's role is half wisdom and half faith in the majority of games in which she plays a larger part. For example, in Ocarina of Time, Zelda, like Joseph, is given a prophetic dream. She was able to interpret it correctly as both an omen of darkness and an omen of hope. Like what I do, I've been trying to tell people about my dreams not as an omen of darkness, but as an omen of hope. But people don't want to listen. Continuing on. She has the wisdom to foresee what this kingdom will soon face and is forced to entrust her kingdom's fate to the young man from her dreams. She knows, however, that Link will need a guiding hand to assist him and direct him in his quest. She takes the form of Sheik and works subtly beside Link to guide him towards his ultimate goal. Zelda is aware that Link will have need of her insight and guidance, especially given the fact that he is essentially a 7-year-old child thrust into the body of a grown adult. However, Zelda is equally aware of the danger to her person and of the world itself if she is discovered and captured by Ganon. To ensure that Link has access to her knowledge and instruction, she disguises herself and takes great pains to remain in the shadows until Link has need of her. The fact that Zelda, even as a child, was aware of the gravity of the events around her shows that she was mature even from a young age and blessed with wisdom beyond her years. Be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. First Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. Courage in the Bible is given to those who were most likely unlikely to accomplish anything great for themselves. Moses was a terrible coward, especially when it came to speaking. He fled from Egypt when he was found guilty of murder and pleaded with God to choose someone else to confront Pharaoh. However, Moses found the courage through his faith to return to his homeland and face his past. Likewise, David was just a child. He was never lacking in courage or skill, but few had any belief in the boy's abilities to such join an army. Moses was used as liberate an entire nation and David stood alone against the giant. Their feats not only took great courage, but it inspired it as well. In most Zelda games, Link is something of an underdog. He's a boy without a fairy, the lazy trainee, or an orphan living at home with his grandmother and sister. No one expects much out of him, and more often than not, Link is subject to ridicule and bullying. There's nothing special about him in particular. The best he has accomplished in his pre-hero lifetimes was that he was a fairly successful goat herder. In every Legend of Zelda game, Link has to discover courage for himself before he is found worthy of bearing the Triforce of Courage. In every game, Link in order to find his hidden potential. He's not the sort that would go out of his way to seek out danger or even a thrill. But when a loved one is put in danger, he does not hesitate to take action. He shows very clearly that he hardly is fearless. He simply thinks more of the safety of those around him than of his own, putting their lives ahead of his. Courage is at its root completely selfless. The biggest surprise to fans who read Hyrule Historia was not the fact that the timeline is split, but that it is way. In The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, three futures are produced. The first two are created when Link succeeds in slaying Ganon and Zelda sends Link back to his childhood, leaving the future without a hero of time. One split is thus known as the child timeline, and the other is known as the adult timeline. The final split, known as the fallen hero timeline, occurs if Link is killed during the final showdown with Ganondorf. For the remainder of this article, I will be focusing on the mainline games leading up to and throughout the Fallen Hero timeline. According to the Hyrule Historia, the very first event in Hyrulean history was the creation of the heaven and earth. Right off the bat, the beginning of Hyrule's history is a direct reflection of the creation story of Genesis in Christian Bibles, Catholic Bibles as well, and so forth, yada yada. The first game, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, opens with a legend in which the earth was filled with corruption and violence. There is a tale that you humans have passed down through generations. It tells of a war of unmatched scarcity, the likes of which would never be seen again. One dark, fateful day, the earth cracked wide, and malevolent forces rushed forth from the fissure. They mounted a brutal assault upon the surface people, driving the land into deep despair. They burnt forests to ash, choked the land's sweet springs, and murdered without hesitation. They did all of this in their lust to take the ultimate power protected by her grace, the goddess. The power she guarded was without equal, handed down by the gods of old. This power gave its holder the means to make any desire a reality. Such was the might of the ultimate power that the old ones placed in it, the care of the goddess. The first thing to take note of here is that this tale takes place generations after the creation of the world. In this span of time, the Helians have come to worship several gods. Comes into direct conflict with the religion of the later game, the Ocarina of Time, in which three goddesses rather than gods are assumed to have created the world, the sacred realm, and the Triforce itself. Though a minor detail through the games, there is always a distinction made between gods and goddesses. It is entirely possible that, like our own history, as the world became populated, many cultures turned to their own interpretation of the world and created gods and goddesses to explain creationism. In the context of the Legend of Zelda, there seems to be a common trait shared by the gods and goddesses within each of the games. They are far from divine. The gods and goddesses in nearly every Zelda game in which they appear are shown to be vulnerable, fallible, and even capable of being killed. The deities of Hyrule are more of a reflection of pagan gods from our own cultures than of the Almighty. In Skyward sword, the ancient god time thought in great power to a goddess known as Helia to protect. Helia sends the great power among the remaining humans into the sky to save them from the swelling forces of evil sweeping over the face and the planet. With humanity safe, Helia was able to face the forces of darkness and seal them away. When Helia is, again, a far cry from a reflection of the Almighty, she takes on the characteristics that reflect the story of Christ. She brings herself into the world inside a mortal body, removing her divinity and living among us. And of course, her purpose was not the spiritual salvation of mankind, but rather the physical salvation. Additionally, the founding legend of Skyloft, the civilization in the sky, shares a remarkable similarity to the account of the biblical flood. The flood itself is actually reflected twice in the lore of Hyrule. First, in the story of the Skyward Sword, and secondly, in the story of the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. In the case of the former, humanity was placed on a vessel in the form of a giant floating chunk of earth due to the planet being filled with corruption, and there remained above ground for a very long time until all evil was purged. By the time the population returns to the surface, the globe had changed greatly. The people from the sky, now identifying themselves as Helians to honor their patron goddess, began to repopulate the surface. Helia's role within the game is whispered a parallel of Christ's story as well. The goddess willingly surrenders her divinity to take form of a mortal. Helia, however, was in need of the work of salvation herself through her actions. The sword, which sets the tone for all Legend of Zelda games to follow in the timeline, also echoes back to the conclusion of the Garden of Eden story. When Link when Link is successful in his defeat of the villain demise, the dark entity swears that he will forever be a bane on the hero and a goddess, similar to Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And I will put enmity on you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers, he will crush your head and you will strike his heel. Interesting. Following the events in Skyward Sword, the sacred realm is sealed away. This mirrors the exile from the Garden of Eden. In a way that Adam and Eve were sent away. They were sent into an unfamiliar, untamed world. The official timeline states that the following of the seal of the sacred realm, there was a short era of peace, followed immediately by an era of chaos. In the majority of the games to follow Skyward Sword, the dark spirit of demise surfaces time and time again, mostly in the form of Ganon or Ganondorf, for one reason or another becomes a threat to the Princess Zelda, the incarnation of Helia. And with every incarnation of demise, the incarnation of the hero is brought forth in the form of Link. The cycle is the foundation for nearly every game within the Legend of Zelda lore. By the arrival of the epoch of the hero of time, the Helian people have adapted a belief in the three golden goddesses, Din, Foror, and Nehru. It's quite possible that the three goddesses were actually inspired by the three elemental dragons from Skyward Sword who share similar names. Over the ages, especially following the age of decline, it would be reasonable to think that the dragons, their names, and their images would have been translated and retranslated. For example, Pharaon in Skyward Sword is a female dragon who holds dominion over the water. Her fountain is hidden deep within the Pharaon woods and provides life giving sustenance to her surrounding land. Her goddess counterpart, Faror, represents the virtue of wisdom and is said to have created the sky. She eventually becomes the patron goddess of Zora, who also worships minor gods such as Jabu Jabu. Hmm. The Zora are not aggressive people by nature. They value wisdom above anything else. So it's very likely that Zora imposed their favored virtue into their deity of choice. It's uncommon for such things to happen over time, especially when traditions are passed orally and histories are lost by the chaos. The Fallen Hero timeline is created when Link, the chosen hero of goddesses, is defeated during the final confrontation with Ganon. The chosen one of the gods was killed, leaving Hyrule without a hero, and evil is allowed to thrive. Mind, Ganon makes a return in other timelines as well. So even when the chosen hero of the goddesses is successful, the gods are ultimately powerless to contain the evil in all three timelines. There is a quiet falling away from the religion of the three goddesses, but within the fallen hero timeline, to be surfacing. When Hyrule is left to Ganon, the imprisoning war breaks out. During this war, the people of Hyrule are consumed with greed and lust over the Triforce. They wage war upon one another, and many races are assumed to have perished during this conflict, including the Gerudo. The king of Hyrule orders the sacred realm sealed. Seven sages, likely descendants of the seven sages from Ocarina of Time, managed to close the sacred realm, sealing Ganon and his evil away for a short time. The events of Link to the Past then unfold. With a Link to the Past, mention of goddesses is minimal. The old gods of Hyrule have faded into ancient legend, and instead, new religious buildings and writings are making an appearance. It would seem that after the failure of the gods in the past, the people turned away from them and began seeking a new source of hope. It's within a link of the past that the priest, sanctuary, and Bible make their first historical appearances. Link interacts with these aspects of Christianity, but he doesn't seem personally affected by them through his quest. He does, however, encounter occultist rituals and practitioners. Several maidens descended who successfully sealed Ganon away are kidnapped in order to be sacrificed so Ganon can make his return. Link manages to confront Ganon, and this time he emerges successful. It isn't long until Link is drawn into another realm where he is confronted once more with the threat of Ganon's resurrection. In the Oracle games, which chronologically occur simultaneously, Link encounters the goddesses of the old religion, Din and Nehru. Both goddesses are endangered, and it's up to Link to rescue them. During this encounter with very mortal, very vulnerable so called goddesses, Link discovers that the gods of his culture's religions not only led to an era of chaos, but they are unable to defend themselves against forces that were defeated by his own mortal hands. Following the Oracle games is Link's Awakening. The opening scene shows Link sailing on a ship during a great storm. Reference to Noah. He's shipwrecked and is resuscitated on a small island. In this game, Link draws a very parallel that is powerful to Jonah. God revealed himself to Jonah and asked him to go witness a very hostile nation absolutely absorbed in a pagan religions. Jonah instead attempted to sail away. God intervened by sending a great storm after Jonah, during which Jonah cast him overboard to save a crew and was promptly swallowed by a great fish. Jonah was forced to admit his mistake and agreed to return to his homeland as God wished to spread the word of God. It could very well be that Link, now with this personal experience with the vulnerable so-called gods of the people's faith, was trying to avoid returning to Hyrule. He would have been returning to a culture that still had a good population of believers in the old religion now, and that was the conflict Link simply did not want. A storm destroyed his ship and left him stranded on an island ruled over by none other than a great fish. Link's entire time spent shipwrecked revolved solely on attempting to awaken the windfish, a giant whale-like creature that rests an egg atop its island's peak. When Link successfully awakens the creature, he himself awakens floating on a bit of a driftwood and watches an island vanish. The entire game is nothing more than a dream. The end screen of the game shows Link on a ship, presumably sailing back to his homeland. The vision Link saw within the dreams reflects strongly on the stories of Joseph and his own prophetic dreams. In Leek's time of the Dream and the Windfish, he saw visions of characters that had some connection to his lineage. It could be that the characters' models from A Link to the Past were simply recycled, but in the context of the game, it could be that Link's experience on the island were reflecting a deeper part of himself. The final boss that Link faces in his time within the whale's dream is the Shadow of Ganon, a foe he is destined to face as long as his lineage continues. A Link from the original Legend of Zelda is said to have been a descendant of the Link from the era of Light and Dark, Link to the Past, the Oracle games, and Link's Awakening. Little is known about his background. save for the fact that he was a traveler. It says right here from the old video games about Link, a young traveler. He encounters Impa while visiting Hyrule. It is thought that he may be the descendant of the Link who defeated Ganon and departed on a journey to continue his training during the era of light and dark. It's in these games that Link wields a shield bearing the cross. It's clear to this point that Link has found his faith. Between the original Zelda and his direct predecessor, The Adventure of Link, it is clear that Link has become a follower of Christ. It's very possible that Christianity took root during the time of this new Link's ancestor, and the faith had been passed down to their hero's family. The final Link in this timeline, seen bearing the Crusader shield, fighting back into the darkness, and finally putting an end to Ganon. This era, according to Hyrule Historia, is known as the era of decline. It could very well be the old faith, not the kingdom himself, which is declining. The fallen hero timeline during the close of the era of light and darkness, Link uses the Triforce to restore the land of Hyrule and usher in peace in what is referred to as the Golden Era. Given Link's influence following the events, it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to assume that the new successor to Link's legacy, the Link of the Era of Decline, took up where his predecessor left off and revealed to the people of Hyrule the truth of their old faith. There are piles of more implications, messages, and symbols within the Legend of Zelda that reflect biblical figures, stories, and symbology. Strange is, these concepts can help us reach out to others who have never engaged in discussion about the Lord. Honestly, man, so like this was a good article, and when I play video games and when I played video games throughout my whole life, these were the type of things that I was highly fascinated in. I wasn't really interested in playing video games to get lost. I was playing video games in the esoteric sense. I literally always thought that the Triforce was always something that had to do with the Father, Son, and the Spirit. Lo and behold, that I never ever seen those ancient, or the 80s 90s artwork from Japan about Zelda. And it's just a synchronicity. It could be, my spirit is ting up there, and I'm seeing things for what it truly is. But literally, like, even Halo, the video game Halo, it's about genetic testing of super soldiers, and hey, then you find out that that's actually happening in the military. So a lot of these things, I was always looking for a bird's eye view, a secret sense, and you should too when you play some of these movies, video games, things around. Just at least make sure that the energy that you are having around you in video games or movies is going to teach you something, and not just lull you to sleep. Lull you to sleep like this following food dye. So recently, December 2022, common food dye can trigger inflammatory bowel diseases. See, I've been saying this for a minute. Quit with those red 20s, red 40s, yellow 40s, yellow 8 bullshit, yada, yada, yada. Long-term consumption of Allura red food dye can be potential trigger of inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, says McMaster University Walu Khan, using experimental models of IBD. Researchers found that continual exposure to Allura Red AC harms gut health and promotes inflammation. The dye directly disrupts gut barrier function and increases the production of serotonin, a hormone neurotransmitter found in the gut, which subsequently alters gut microbiota composition, leading to increased susceptibility of colitis and other other sicknesses. Khan said Allura Red, also called FDC Red 40 and FDC Red 17. And just so you know, anything that says FDC Red, blue, yellow, or even if it says red, blue, or yellow and a number, don't freaking get it. Is a common ingredient in candies, soft drinks, dairy products, and cereals. The dye is also used to add color and texture to foodstuffs, often to attract children. The use of synthetic food dyes such as Allura Red has increased significantly over the last several decades, but there has been little study of the food dye's gut effect on health. This study demonstrates significant significant harmful effects of allura red on gut health and identifies gut serotonin as a critical factor mediating these effects. These findings have important implication on the prevention and management of gut inflammation, said Khan. The study's senior author, a professor of the Department of Pathology and Molecular Medicine, and a principal investigator of the Pharmacobi Family Digestive Health Research Institute. What we have found is striking and alarming, as this common synthetic food diet is a possible dietary trigger for inflammatory bowel disease. The research is a significant advance in alerting the public on the potential harms of food dyes that we consume daily. The literature suggests that the consumption of Allura Red also affects certain allergies, immune disorders, and behavioral problems in children, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Kant said that inflammatory bowel diseases are serious chronic inflammatory conditions of the human bowel that affect millions of people worldwide. While their exact causes are still not fully understood, studies have shown a dysregulated immune responses, genetic factors, gut microbiota imbalances, and environmental factors can trigger these conditions. In recent years, there has been significant progress in identifying susceptibility genes and the understanding of the role of the immune system and host microbiota and the pathogenesis of the inflammatory bowel disease. However, similar advances in defining environmental risk factors have lagged. Kant said that environmental triggers of inflammatory bowel diseases include the typical Western diet, which includes processed fats, red and processed meats, sugar, and lack of fiber. He added that the Western diet and processed food also includes large amounts of various additives and dyes. So the key rule, if it's non-GMO and organic, do not panic. Go for that stuff. That's clean food. That is gonna be without all these food dyes, artificial substances, hormone changers, all that bullshit. So go for organic, go for non-GMO, save yourself the hassle. He added that the study suggests a link between a commonly used food dyes and inflammatory bowel disease and warrants further exploration between food dyes and the diseases that experimental, epidemiological and clinical levels. Khan and his team published their findings in Nature Communications. Yoon Han Eric Kwan also recently completed in Khan's laboratory is the first author. The study was funded by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. Hmm, interesting. So, like I said, for the past few months, there is a huge push for scientists and top level thinkers within universities and group level studies to actually heal people. So we can't not just think that all science and all research, all universities, all these big wigs are full of shit and that they all should not be trusted. Because yes, some of them we can't, like Fauci, but some of these people are actually trying to heal us. And there's a lot of people, very smart people around the world. We should not hold everybody to the same standard as like there being only one top dog and only one voice in each field we should listen to. No, we should listen to everybody, appreciate everybody. There's a lot of voices, and if we can all get along and kind of listen to each other, we can put a clear picture together. Yes, some of these people are liars, but even through their lies, we still see the picture. If they're trying to lie about this and make an agenda about that, then there should be a bigger picture that we can see. They're like, oh, now they're trying to affect us this way because anyways, anyways. Look, I'm not trying to get into it, guys. What I want to get into is this. See, I found this interesting. Squid edit their RNA to keep cellular supply lines moving in the cold. So now, when this mRNA technology has came to light over the last few years across the globe, I started wondering what was that story. I think of three scenarios, like the now implications, the future implications, and like spiritual implications. So the spiritual implications don't apply to this, but the future implications do. So squid pros seeing that the cold is around them and seeing that climates change, they edit their RNA to make sure that they keep living. Now, let's just say that some of these scientists know that our climate is going to change so drastically through carbon footprint and bullshit. Whatever. Let's just say maybe they know that our Earth is going through a natural change and another snowstorm or great freeze or flood or lava or worldwide volcanic eruptions. Atmospheric changes, natural earth changes are going to happen. Or scientists know that something in the future is going to definitely change on our earth. Like maybe meteors come down or aliens come down and our atmosphere changes it. Or, let's just say these guys with their agendas know that within 15 years they want to change the climate, which they do. They literally want to add more or take less of the carbon out. Whatever. I don't know which one it is. I don't even know if they'll make it happen. But if they're giving us mRNAs now, could it be very similar that they're trying to keep some people's lineages going, or it could be the opposite. They're trying to keep some lineages prevented from growing. Who knows? But I do think though that let's just say hypothetically that these vaccines and these technologies that have been implemented and given to the global populace over the last 3 years that do have a reference to mRNA technologies, maybe they might just be a good thing. That's just hoping for the best. I'm just saying that. Now let's just get into this a little bit. This is interesting. Squid don't have thermostats to control ocean temperature changes. Instead, the cephalopods tweak RNA to adjust to frigid waters. Using genetic instructions encoded in DNA are faithfully copied into messenger RNA and mRNA and then into proteins. But squid and other soft bodied cephalopods edit many of their mRNAs so that resulting proteins contain some different building blocks than inscribed in DNA. In these mammals, 60% or more of their proteins are actually recorded. This is astonishing comparing to how RNA editing is used in mammals. Interesting. Rangan of the University of California, San Diego examined the consequences that editing has on proteins called kinesins. These molecular motors ferry cargo throughout cells along protein tracks called microtubules. Problems on the cellular railway can lead to cell dysfunction or death or may contribute to disease. Squid hatchlings put chilly 6 degrees Celsius water for a day, edited mRNAs for a kinesin protein differently and more heavily than hatchlings placed on warm 20 degrees Celsius water. Huh. She then made an unedited version and several edited versions of kinesin in a laboratory and compared the protein movements on microtubules. In the cold, unedited kinesin moved more slowly, traveled shorter distances, and fell off microtubule tracks more often than it did in the warm. Two of the edited kinesins, like those made by squid in cold water, moved a little slower than the unedited protein, but the renovated versions grabbed onto the microtubules more often and had longer runs in an unedited kinesin. This suggests that recording can allow kinesin to stay on tracks and travel farther. Changing some made on demand RNAs instead of permanently altering DNA can give squid more flexibility to adjust fluctuating ocean temperatures, she said. Very interesting article. So we see these fish and stuff and creatures camouflage. They have camouflage. They can change the way their body is. It's so ridiculous. But now, hold on. We add a whole nother aspect. They can actually change their DNA or RNA or like yeah, it's interesting. Very, very interesting. See, the more that we go through our life, the more that we should be learning these type of things to open up our minds and to realizing that we may just not be alone. And what we know about the earth may not just be exactly what we once knew and what it really is, right? All right, continuing forward. We're bringing it down to the end here. Netflix will start streaming Nike Training Club classes next week. So, guys, get on Netflix, hit that Nike Training Club. Look, I know I talk shit about Nike and Netflix before, but whatever. It's a new day. It's a new year. I'm not going on and holding on to old hate and old past and old baggage. All right, man. I'm moving forward. Look, go ahead, hit up Netflix, get yourself into some fitness programs. Get right, get your mind going, your body going, your spirit shining, man. Look, whatever way that you can. I started my fitness journey a long time ago. Recently, I've been amping it up and actually really diving in. And you know what? It's really changed my life, my ego, my emotion, my body, my soul, everything, like everything. I'm at peace. I found someone and I'm happy, and it's amazing. According to Netflix, the episodes will be released in two batches. While the first arrives next week, the second will come sometime in 2023. The first batch includes 46 classes divided into five curated sessions. Kickstart fitness with basics, 2 weeks with a stronger core, fall in love with vinyasa yoga, hit and strength with Terra, and feel good fitness. See, I've been a proponent of yoga. I've been telling people to do yoga for the last 2 years, and they say if Nike is going to tell you to do yoga now, will you listen to me? Do some yoga, guys. It'll change your life. Like it's so easy, but it feels so good. It's unbelievable. It's simple, but because of the nerves and the way the muscles and the motion of your body is going, there is a higher level to it that your body flows with. It's an ancient tradition. Get with it and get going, guys. This is a savvy idea from Netflix. After all, who hasn't gone to the gym where at least one person wasn't watching a show on the iPad? True. So, you could probably link this up to your Nike app. But also go get fit, guys. Use my coupon codes over at boomerboost.com to get yourself some organic supplements like premium barley, this powerful barley. It's electron charged. It's actually supercharged, literally, man. It's fire. Go ahead, get it. Use coupon code 509 Divine Pines for 20% off and grab yourself a 70 and nutrient blend. Also, whatever else you want, probiotics, collagen, they got everything. The best. Look at it. Like, I'm not playing. This company is grade A. I love it. I've been using supplements for 10 years. After these guys, I don't even need any other companies. Truly. Hey, thank me later. Now, continuing forward, the magnetic north is shifting fast. Maybe that's why the RNA is happening. If our climate is changing and this magnetic north and pole reversal is very close. See, that's also a speculation. People were saying that our poles are gonna flip. And look at this. I found this from 2019. Um, the magnetic north is changing. All right, all right, guys. This is a very long article. So we see these different points that are constantly changing. Um, but maybe now, because of what's been happening over the last like 50 to 100 years, a huge push and messing up our planet, we're changing it very, very drastic. I mean, personally, uh, I couldn't imagine that that is very true. That's why you see a lot of these companies and bigger time agencies building bunkers and life vessels and things that can survive a pandemic. And guys, something's coming up. I don't know what it is, but who knows? Good luck. I love you guys. Let's go on and finish this up, man. Hey, you guys love a conspiracy, and so do I. Now, let's do this right.
Video game conspiracy theories. All gamers
Ooh,
need to know.
sorry.
Part one. There's a conspiracy theory that Animal Crossing is actually about a furry cult.
All right, we're just gonna run it. All right, guys, here we go.
Which abducts children and indoctrinates them. Think about it. You play a childlike human who's taken to an island of anthropomorphic animals where there are no adults, and you're immediately put to work doing chores to pay off a massive debt, and you cannot leave. Polybius is an eerie urban legend. The unconfirmed 1981 arcade game is supposedly a government run psychology experiment that caused players to have seizures, amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations. Arcade machines were said to have been visited periodically by men in black for the purpose of data mining and analyzing these effects. Polybius is said to have disappeared without a trace and has yet to be proven it even existed. Rumor has it that all first-person shooter games are actually government-sponsored training simulators and propaganda. It doesn't help that the US government actually did directly fund America's army, which has added fuel to this conspiracy. I can follow for part two. Here is 3 video game conspiracy theories all gamers need to know. Part 2. We know Mario as our beloved plumber, but it's also debated that he could be a communist sympathizer who is trying to overthrow the rich elite of the Mushroom Kingdom. From Mario looking like Joseph Stalin wielding a hammer, which is one half of the USSR.
All right, this is bullshit.
Wario being a representation.
I'm gonna just skip this one.
There are 3 video game conspiracy theories all gamers need to know. Part 3. When Tomb Raider came out in 1996, Lara Croft was an instant icon. Rumors quickly started to spread that there was a nude code that if you put it in correctly, you can play a naked version of Lara. No such code was ever built into the game, but that didn't stop horny gamers from trying. When Pokemon was first released, there was a spike in suicides and illnesses for kids in Japan. These allegedly took place after they reached Lavender Tower, whose theme music had extremely high frequencies that only children and young teens can hear. Programmers fixed Lavender Town's theme music to be at a lower frequency, and since then, children were no longer affected by it. Legend has it that Saddam Hussein, the then president of Iraq, stockpiled 4,000 PlayStation 2s to make supercomputers and weapons of mass destruction from all of the components inside. Who knows where this urban legend came from? But with claims of the PlayStation 2's power, maybe it came from Sony themselves. Like and follow football. Here are 3 video game conspiracy theories.
That's way more than 3.
Majora's Mask cartridge. The story goes that a university student got a copy of Majora's Mask from a garage sale. He boots up the game and there is a save title called Ben, which he decides to play. It's all glitchy and distorted. The ghost of the previous owner, Ben, begins to haunt him and lots of creepy stuff happens. This was later debunked as false, but still makes you hesitate to buy a second-hand game. Released in 1980, Berserk has you fighting killer robots in a maze. However, it's also linked to the deaths of 2 of its high scorers, both by heart attack. The top score of one of the deceased was 16,660. The inclusion of 666 in the score caused rumors to fly that Berserk was cursed by the devil. There's an urban legend that somewhere in the New Mexico desert, Atari buried 1 million unsold video game cartridges, including all of what is considered to be the worst video game in Atari history.
Yo, guys. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed those little conspiracy theories. That Mario one was bullshit. I didn't want to see it. That's hilarious. Mario is not a communist. I actually did hear something about Mario and Luigi being related to Enki and Enlil. If you look at the symbology of what they do, the colors and how they act, it's very eerily reminiscent to Enki and Enlil. And I mean, we understand that these video games like to throw in ancient references, ancient, like super old, like things, you know, God of War. That's another one. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I love you guys. Have a blessed holiday this year. Be blessed. Be high. Take care.
Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught up in the loop. Got up out it cause I found the truth. Woke up to a beauty of the day, the sun is shining, so I'm finna stay sitting, soaking up all of the rays, till I feel it surging through my brain like some booger sugar. Did a lot of cane, experimented with it, couldn't name all the times I did it, feeling like a fade. Yeah, I'm really glad that I let it go, cause I gotta be prepped for the time when the plane ride is a new norm. So I know I'm gonna stay high, blaze on the ganja, feeling like I make my music go to another level while I take off. I can't ever stop this, fell in love with it, fit like a glove, so I'm never ever done with it. So now I'm about to rip another beat, ayy. One day I'll make $1 million in a week, yeah, shooting for the top spot. Feel like I'm a hot shot, like I really got a chance with it. I will not flop, somebody gonna make a dance when I pop off. Gonna have all the bitches taking all the tops off. I've been feeling like I'm really gonna kill it for the rest of my life, so I've been staying focused. In my soul, I've been feeling like $1 million, so I know that everything is really getting closer. Yeah, no posers, only been hanging with the ones I've chosen. Only all the people that are living in the right way, cause they spending every day growing. Yeah, no whole shit coming in my life and then leaving in a moment. That's the shit I'll never let into my life again, cause lately I've been feeling like I'm golden. Never showboat, I just showcase on my music that I made this far. Always knew that I could be the one that would get this far. Now I'm right here looking in my mirror, trying to figure out if there's any more fear, cause I'm getting rid of it all, yeah, I'm getting rid of it all. meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present